Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Maayan Talks MLS. Now, it was a wild decision day, best time of the year, a lot of crazy results. We all saw what went down, and I brought on a guest to chat with me about decision day and about the Wildcard games, first round preview, and then we're also going to break down some of our personal award winners from the regular season. So, if you want to introduce yourself, Jeronimo.
Yeah, my name's Jeronimo. Uh, I work at Whitecaps as like part-time staff, so I'm very around the Whitecaps scene. I've been following the league, I want to say like religiously since maybe a few years ago, but I've always been aware of it since like 2013, 2014. Um, and yeah, decision day was a bit crazy. I can't lie. And can't wait
Hmm.
to go into it.
And where were you last week?
Last week? So last week I was down in New York for Columbia, Canada international friendly. I'm obviously from Canada, but my family's from Colombia, so it was kind of like a little family derby, just
Hmm.
kind of our ethnicity versus nationality type of thing going on. So it was great to be there. Obviously, it was a little bit frustrating considering I'm both Colombia fan and Canada fan. Like, neither team could finish. Like, it was just honestly, it was a bit frustrating to watch from that perspective. But the atmosphere was amazing. Ran into a few Canadian fans too, including our good friend Isaac Henry. Um, and yeah, no, it was a great experience. And I was actually there in 2014 for the first time they faced off as an international friendly.
Yeah.
Obviously, they faced off in Gold Cup, I guess, a
Hmm.
long time
Yeah,
ago.
yeah, back in
Um,
2000.
yeah, but back then, Hammers scored the winning goal. It was a 1-0 win over Canada. But yeah, this Canada team looks way more up to par now with some of these giants.
Yeah, I think it was quite fitting there was a draw just for I guess, you being there, right? You and your family.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get straight into it. We can talk a little bit about decision day and maybe just want to ask you what results stood out to you the most. You can talk about multiple if you want to, but just in general, what did you take away from decision day?
Um, I think a lot of people will go right away to Whitecaps Dallas,
Hmm.
but I am actually more shocked about Toronto beating Orlando 4-2 at
Yeah.
home. Georgi Mihailovic just balled out, and this Orlando team, man, it's just really weird because it seems like they have everything they need in attack. Obviously, they're a bit thin on defense right now with Robin Janssen out, and yeah, no, it's been really weird for Orlando. I mean, obviously, it's crazy that they went down to the ninth position in the wild card spot.
Hmm.
I think they have more points than last season, but last season they were fourth, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that
crazy
that's
how
crazy.
wild the East is right now.
Exactly. It just shows how wild it is, and yeah, I don't really know if you would take that as a successful season or not for Orlando, just because like I mean that's a game you should win, and I mean looking back to Vancouver last week, I mean their game management was really poor. I thought um, they were just sitting really deep,
Hmm.
and yeah, no, it's just a little concerned about Orlando going into this matchup with Chicago Fire.
Yeah, like I guess in that Vancouver game, I mean, you go up a goal, you're at home, and then, like you said, you just sit back and let the other team dominate you and dictate the game. And obviously, the Caps were worth more than two goals, I think. I mean, I think even before Orlando scored, the Caps were the better team. Orlando had some chances, but really it was the Caps' game to lose, and well, they won it. And then this Toronto game this weekend, I mean, first of all, you can't ignore the fact that Bill Essay had an absolute stinker. Like the Mihailovic free kick and then Mihailovic's second goal as well, where he just like kind of sticks his leg out to try and save it, but doesn't really make an effort. And in one of your biggest games of the season, maybe the biggest game of the season, that's just unacceptable. It's it's rough, but yeah, I think I will go to the West and partially focus on the Caps Dallas game, but also more importantly, I think the Colorado LAFC game. The fact that Colorado were so close to qualifying, if not for a 90th minute equalizer from Andy Moran, it's insane. Um, and I mean, I think yeah, well, I think the way Chris Armas reacted after the game, I'm sure you probably saw it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
The
terrible. I mean,
yeah, the way he responded to that reporter, I think it's just it's not right. I mean, first of all, interrupting the reporter in the middle to kind of just say, "Oh, we missed playoffs. I didn't know," um, and then just saying disrespectful things and saying that I think it's the Burgundy Wave only report negatively about the team, which is probably not true. I mean, I can't say I've read too much of their stuff, but I would assume that it's not all negative. And at the same time, the team just isn't good. Like, what do you expect to be written about you? Um, so yeah, I mean, I think it's a really tough way for Colorado's season to end. And then to touch on the Caps Dallas game, the red card decision, I'm unsure of, to be honest, because I think we've talked about this a little bit already.
yeah,
Um,
it's
I think
I was
VAR,
looking
yeah,
back at it. It was just like I was looking back at it, like because from my phone it kind of looked like, oh, maybe that is Dog Zo, and then
mhm,
I watched the highlights through my laptop, and I was like, wait, I'm not even sure anymore. It's like it's very tight.
yeah. I think it's the wrong decision from VAR to send Alan Chapman to the screen, but I don't necessarily blame him for making giving a red card after seeing it there, because I think you can make an argument that Sarver's going through on goal because Julio's blocking Halbuni, so Halbuni can't really track back, so it is the last man. And it's just about where Sarver's touch is taking it, really. And I think it's a tough call to make. I think if he gives a red initially, VAR shouldn't overturn it. But same thing the other way around. I don't think they should have sent him to the screen. And I think on top of that, the Whitecaps penalty, like Milos Abubakar doesn't play the ball. He goes in with his arm onto Sabi. I think that should be a red as well. Because I mean, I know there's double jeopardy, but that only applies if you're playing the ball and he doesn't make an attempt even with his feet to get near the ball. I think it's a bit weird, and I also think he should have been sent off anyways later for a
Yeah,
challenge
I
on
feel
Thomas
that
Muller that
too.
should have been a second yellow. But yeah, I mean, fair play to Dallas. You know, they did what they were supposed to do. Urguier with the goal from the set piece, and then just the start of the second half they score again. And fair play to them, they hung in there. They did what they were supposed to do. I I'm not going to say I'm worried for the Whitecaps in this playoff series where they will face each other. I think it's you know, as long as you have 11 men on the pitch, you should beat this Dallas team. The only kind of main concern, and I think it's the concern that all Whitecaps fans are going to have, is the center back partnership of what is probably going to be Bilal Abouni and Ralph Priso against Petro Musa and Logan Farrington. Like those are two guys that are play very well with each other and also have a good aerial presence, which Priso obviously doesn't have, and how Booney's very prone to making mistakes. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, at least in the first game of the series. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about that game. I don't know if you want to add anything else.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think the way we just dominated the game was just crazy. I mean,
Mhm.
even Eric Quill said it himself, like we were giving it our all and his team wasn't, and we had one man short. And I mean, even then, if people are gonna look at this game and be like, oh, I this is like the deciding factor of me not voting for Jesper Sorensen, I think this game proves that Jesper Sorensen should be coach of the year, simply because the way we were able to manage that game and dominate it, despite facing 11 players on the field. Some people would say 12. I don't know. But yeah, no, I think it was good fight from Whitecaps. But yeah, as you said, like the center back position is very thin right now, and hopefully in the near future. Blackman will be back sometime in November. But yeah, it'll be tough in that regard for Vancouver Whitecaps.
I think it's going to be extremely important to try and finish off the series in 2 games to give the injured guys more time to recover, so you don't have to play the third game, and then you also get the week off because I think there's an international break right after the first round. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that one plays out. I think it's going to be one of the more entertaining series either way. I think no matter who's on the pitch, it's the way the Caps play and the fact that Dallas do have firepower in the attack, and those guys are going to be back for that series. And with that, I guess we talked a little bit about Decision Day. We can move on to the wildcard games that are happening on Wednesday. So let's start with the Eastern Conference game. And I mean, we already touched on one of the teams that's in this game. We've got Chicago hosting Orlando. This is going to be, Orlando going on the road is already going to be tough. And with the way they've played recently and the players that they're missing, quite frankly, I think they're going to lose this game. I don't know what you think, but obviously not having Robin Janssen is the biggest thing there. I think Luis Muriel has been non-existent for the last few months, really. I know that might hurt you as the Colombian. They've got so much quality in their attack, and it just hasn't been there. It hasn't shown. They scored 2 goals against Toronto. One of them was like the 92nd minute of the game when you're already down 4-1. So it doesn't move me. It doesn't do anything for me, And I think if Martin Ojeda doesn't massively step up, and the fact that in the midfield they're still missing Araujo, Cartagena, they have to play Atuesta and Cal Smith. It's an extremely tough position they've been put in with the injuries in the midfield and the back line, but with the quality they have in the attack, they should be able to score multiple goals a game, and I just don't. Right now, I don't see them doing it.
Yeah, I agree. It's crazy the output the DPs have had for Orlando, yet we're kind of talking about them like this now during this part of the season. But yeah, I just want to switch over to Chicago Fire because they've been in great form. Obviously fell a little short to New England. I feel like they should have probably won that game to their standards. But Philip Zinkernagle has been an incredible signing. I think he's got 15 goals, 15 assists. And honestly, at home, I think Chicago will be able to seal the deal. And obviously, with Galese a little bit out of form, I mean, I feel like Galese is usually pretty good in these big games, big knockout games. But I don't know, man. That performance last week was a little bit suspicious.
That performance last week and the goal that should have been given against the
That's true.
He makes a save and then just pushes the ball into the net.
Yeah. That's a good point. I didn't even realize that.
But yeah, with Chicago, I think it's like you said, Zinkernagel's been amazing. Kuipers has been one of the best strikers in MLS too. Jonathan Bomba's been a great piece. Brian Gutierrez has been good when called upon. They've got a decent back line. They're actually pretty much worse at home than they are away. And I don't think they're not gonna stress about it much in this game, but it might be an advantage for them going into the playoffs where every single game they're gonna play, if they win this wildcard game, every single game they're gonna play other than game 2 of round 1 is gonna be away from home. And you're gonna face Philly, it's gonna be extremely tough, but we're gonna discuss dark horses later, and I think this may be a preview into what mine might be. And if you have anything else to add, or
yeah, I totally agree. And I just want to touch upon, I feel like Chicago has so much depth right now. Like the fact that you said all those attacking pieces, but they also have Haile Selassie, who I think he got 3 assists the other day, against Miami, I believe.
In the Miami game, yeah.
Yeah. So it's just crazy how much output they have moving forward. And also looks like Jack Elliott has finally found his feet there as well, even though he had a bit of a crazy game the other day. And Waterman has been pretty solid as well in his first few games. So yeah, I'm really excited to see his Chicago team, and I think moving forward, as you said, I think definitely need to consider them as dark horses. And Philly needs to watch out because this is not going to be an easy matchup. Even if they do get Orlando, it probably won't be an easy matchup either. Just the
Yeah.
Eastern Conference is way too stacked.
Mhm. And then in the West, we've got Portland hosting RSL. Now, I think no one really expected Portland to drop down into the wildcard game. I mean, I don't think many people thought they'd get a result against San Diego in that decision day game, but I don't think many people thought that Dallas would get any sort of result in Vancouver. So with those two happening, Dallas winning, Portland losing, they drop into the wildcard game into 8th place. RSL stay in 9th with the draw. Um, and I think this is a more interesting one to analyze because, quite frankly, neither team is very good. Portland just can't seem to score with like no matter who's on the pitch in the last few months. I think they've won like 2 games in their last, I don't know, I'd say
They've won
14.
they've won 2 games since like July or something. Like,
Yeah,
it's
exactly. It's insane. And then RSL are also interesting because it's like I guess they finally found a striker that can produce for them, and that's Victor Latunji. But I also think their back line is really it is an issue. Like they're not the most well-rounded team. I think it's going to be tough for them going to Providence Park. Obviously, it's a big environment, good atmosphere there. It didn't really trouble the Caps when they went there last year, but for the most part, it's a tough environment to play in. And I don't know who I would take in this game. I think our seller in bit better form, obviously still not great, kind of stumbled into the wildcard game, but managed to keep their spot in it just because everyone else around the wildcard spots has been pretty bad as well. But Portland have been in awful form as well, so I really don't know where I'd go with this. I think maybe I'd give the slight edge to RSL purely because of Diego Luna. Like genuinely, I think he's the biggest difference maker that either of these teams have. I think Portland have some talent in their squad, but no one can really grasp a game by its hand and just, do it all themselves. And I think Diego Luna can do that for RSL if he's called upon.
Yeah, I agree. It's really weird with Portland Timbers because I feel like they can either be like last year where they just get completely knocked out of the park in the playoffs, or they'll just pull a run out of absolutely nowhere. But I just find it really concerning that they made what I thought was going to be like 3 really good signings
Hmm.
in Christoph Velde, Felipe Carbajo, and Matias Rojas, and they just have not hit at all yet. And I generally had like right after they made those signings, I thought, oh, they're gonna make a push for like maybe top four in the
I
in the
know. I
West.
was thinking like, oh, they're gonna go above Seattle. They're gonna play them in the 4-5 matchup or something. Like,
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like concerning to see that they couldn't even like get any points and just fall into that wild card spot, as you said. But yeah, it's gonna be a really tough game to analyze. I'm really excited about this one because it could really go either way. Um, I think I would also give RSL a slight edge, just simply because it seems like Olatunji's in some form that he can benefit from. And then Diego Luna and Gozo have been really good um, off the wings and the central areas. And yeah, I feel like RSL could definitely pull off pull off a win here away from home.
yeah, okay, so it seems like we're kind of in agreement for both wildcard games. And if we're all done with that, that takes us into the playoffs themselves. And first of all, I just want to say I think it's really weird that both wildcard teams, like from the East and the West, play their first playoff game on Sunday, where you've got like LAFC against Austin on Wednesday, so they get a week and a half off after decision day. Wildcard teams get a few days off going into Wednesday and then immediately play again on Sunday, so they just get no rest and they're already at a disadvantage because they're just worse teams.
Yeah, I
Um,
feel like it was the same case last year as well, right?
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
It's
Um,
crazy.
yeah, okay. So let's just go in order of when the games are being played. So let's start off with the first game of the actual playoffs rather than the postseason. On Friday, you've got Inter Miami hosting Nashville SC in what might be the most entertaining series, I think, out of all the ones that we're going to have here. Obviously, they played each other on decision day. First half of the game, Nashville looked like the better team. Should have scored like 3 or 4 goals, genuinely. So many missed chances from Mukhtar, from Surridge. And then second half, Miami just did Miami things. Messi, I think, ended with what, a hat trick and an assist in that game. Yeah, just absurd stuff. He finally scored a penalty this season,
Have
and I
you
think
seen
it's
the stats of him compared to like other teams, like at the bottom?
yeah, I know he scored. I think he scored what, more goals than DC United this season, and or yeah, it's pretty tight with a
Yeah,
couple of
definitely has
those.
more goal contributions than like the
Oh
majority of
yeah,
the
yeah,
teams at the
obviously
bottom.
got what, like,
Crazy.
finished on 48, I think.
48, yeah. Really
Yeah, like
surprised
that.
he got that close. I didn't think he was gonna get that close to Vela.
hmm I think it's genuinely like that stretch where he got a brace in every single game for like 8 games in a row or something. Like that's the only reason he made the push for the Golden Boot, and obviously the goal contribution thing with Bella, and did so without scoring pens really. Like he took 2 the entire season. I think the only other pen he took was the one that Kalina saved.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but
He
yeah,
gave a
okay,
lot of
so
pets.
yeah, yeah. And still won the Golden Boot fairly easily.
Crazy.
So Friday, Miami against Nashville. Like I said, I think it's going to be an extremely entertaining series. I think both teams have a lot of attacking firepower. Obviously, Nashville have Mokhtar and Sarge. I'd say the best duo in MLS, just in terms of not solely just goal contributions, but the fact that they actually combine with each other. Because you've got like Cincinnati have Denke and Evander, but they don't play together really. Like they both score, they both get goal contributions, but they don't combine with each other. Whereas Mokhtar and Sarge, pretty much every single goal Nashville score is either scored or assisted by one of them or both of them. And I think it's going to be tough for Miami. It's going to be extremely tough for Nashville. I'd probably give Miami the edge just because of how they did it on decision day. I think they're going to be more clinical. I think they're going to be more effective, at least. Obviously, they've played a lot more games in Nashville this season, so that may come into play, but I don't see it troubling them too much. I mean, Messi's played a lot more than he did last year, and he looks completely fine right now. And yeah, what do you think about this first round matchup?
Yeah, I think it's like really hard to call. Obviously, as you said, it's probably gonna be the most entertaining series. I don't think this previous game they had on decision day will have any effect on Nashville at all. Just because Nashville's underlying numbers are just really good. Um, and I feel like, as you said, like in the first half, they could have had like 3 to 4 more goals if they were more clinical. But yeah, obviously Miami do have the edge in terms of putting the ball in the back of the net. I mean, Messi just makes it look so easy every single time. Um, and yeah, no, I think really whoever wins this first game probably has a really big advantage going into the next one. Um, Even then, it probably will go to 3 games if I had to guess. But yeah, I'm not definitely not counting out Nashville at all. I mean, obviously they might be in the 6th seed, but I think I rate them higher than most East teams that are above them. Um, and yeah, and I generally think that whoever wins this will probably be in the MLS Cup final. That's kind of my spicy take there.
I like that shout. And I think an important thing to remember is that Nashville have already gone on a cup run. They know how to play knockout tournaments. They won the US Open Cup, right? In tough games. The Philly one was a great result. Obviously, the final against Austin with lots of different drama and whatnot. Um, I think the biggest thing that's going to help Miami is that no matter where they play, it's almost like a home game. We saw it in decision day. Like Messi scores and 60% of the stadium is cheering at least. Um, but yeah, I think it's going to be an extremely fun series with lots of goals because Miami's backline, as much as we have slandered it in the past, I think they have gotten a lot better, but they still look extremely shaky at moments. And Nashville do have a solid back line, but it's just the amount of quality that both teams have in the attack. There's going to be so many goals in
Yeah,
in this series, in both games, and just everything. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
definitely. Yeah, probably the series with the most goals, if I had to guess. They'll
yeah.
probably break some record or something. I don't know. But
Especially if
yeah,
it goes to 3 games. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Will Miami be able to get through the first round of playoffs? It's
Ooh,
messy.
best season in Miami
It's
history
never
if that
happened.
happens.
It's never happened.
It's fair
Yeah, last
play.
thing I wanted to touch upon here was like these teams tend to face each other all the time, which is crazy. Like Leagues Cup, Open Cup, and I think last year as well during some bracket tournament. I
Oh
don't
yeah,
know.
they played them in Champions Cup, I think, like early in the season.
Yeah.
Shackelberg scored
Champions
some
Cup.
banger on his right foot. Like, yeah, that was a fun one as well. And I think
Yeah.
pretty
So
much
I
any
mean,
matchup, yeah, pretty much any matchup with these two teams is always fun.
yeah, it'll definitely be a good one for sure.
Okay, so next up we've got on Sunday. Weird that there's no games on Saturday. I don't know why that is. Like it goes from Friday, then you've got a
Yeah.
gap on Saturday, and then 3 games on Sunday in the first round, game one.
I guess they learned that I had a Halloween party on the 25th. Did not want to schedule any game
Obviously.
on
Yeah, yeah.
Saturday.
Yeah,
I
of
just
course. Of course. Also wanted to give people time to study, midterms and all that. Obviously that's all they're thinking about. But yeah, so first game of the day is Philadelphia against the winner of the wildcard game, which we're assuming is Chicago. Could very well be Orlando. I think either way, it's also going to be quite a fun one because Philly have shown it throughout this season how much quality they have in attack and midfield and the back line. Like the practically, you don't, there's barely any flaws in this team. And I think the biggest flaw right now is the fact that they're going to struggle with chance creation without Quinn Sullivan. I've touched on this already. Like his injury is one of the worst things that could have happened to Philly, and maybe one of the worst players they could have lost because they obviously still have quality on the wings. I guess they've got Vasilev and Olofsky to play down there, and they're still very good players, but they don't provide the same sort of thing that Sullivan has. And then say they face Chicago, who do have a fairly solid back line. Davila has been very good. Jack Elliott, like you said, has stepped up recently. That game against Toronto was a bit crazy. Um, and I think Philly can be vulnerable. And we've seen this season that against the better teams in the East, they do struggle. And I mean, they did win the Shield, fair play to them, obviously. But this is going to be tough for them no matter who they're playing because both Orlando and Chicago have a lot of quality in the attack. And I don't know. I think it's going to be a fun one. I think there is potential for an upset here no matter who they're playing against. But yeah.
yeah. There's always cause for an upset when you have Bradley Carnell coaching you as the first seed.
I don't even know if I would call the 2023 one an upset. Like I think
Yeah,
genuinely
that
most
was
people
not an
thought
upset.
SKC were going to win that, which is
Yeah, that was
crazy.
like the most obvious upset ever. I
Yeah.
was like, oh yeah, SKC are winning that. There's no way they are. But yeah, yeah, Philly look great right now. Do you think they're a bit overrated just because of the reason you said? They aren't able to, beat those really big teams out in the East. And I think either of these two teams could cause them trouble just simply in terms of output. I feel like, as you touched on, Quinn Sullivan's a really big loss. I mean, that's like most of their chance creation cut away. And Olofsky and Vasilev are great players, but I think they benefit off a, you know, very chance creative winger midfielder. And I feel like Philly is just lacking that. And, obviously they fell to Charlotte 2-0 as well on decision day. So I think that just previews you that anything can really happen with this Philadelphia team. But I feel like if they're able to maintain their structure, they're definitely going to be able to go to the next round. But I'm not counting out any of these teams, especially Chicago Fire. I feel like they could definitely cause an upset here against Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think it's no matter who's coming up against who, like no matter what the seeding looks like, who advances from the first round, the East is so hard to predict. You can't say that this team is definitely going to make it to MLS Cup or that team or anyone really. So it's going to be it's going to be really fun to watch this first round play out, starting with the wildcard game, going into the best of three series. I think all of these games are going to be tough to predict. Anyone could win any of them. And then the next game on Sunday is it's going to be the Whitecaps against Dallas. We've already spoken quite a bit about this. Um, like I said, I think the biggest weakness for the Whitecaps in game one is going to be not having Matthias Laborda and the fact that, Tristan Blackman's not back yet. Joe Coop, it's no chance he's ready to play more than like 50 minutes, if that even, because he just made the bench last game and still didn't play. Um, but I think it's going to be a fun series. I think Dallas, there's certain things he can take advantage of, obviously because of the Whitecaps' lack of players in the back line, and inexperience really in knockout games. Like your two fullbacks are like a 21-year-old and a 20-year-old, or I think Ocampo might be 22 now. I'm not sure either way still. Um, they're two guys that have never been in this type of position before. I guess Ocampo has, but he really was not part of the squad last year in that LAFC series. Um, and then same thing in the back line, really, other than Laborda when he comes back. Halbuni and Prisa, whichever one of them plays next to him, haven't been in this type of position either. And I think the inexperience when you're coming up against Petar Musa and Logan Farrington and just an all-around relatively solid team, it's going to be a rough first round and maybe tougher than people expect.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Ralph Van Priso continues his form at center back, I think the Whitecaps will be fine. Surprisingly, he's been really good at center back every time he's been called
Hmm.
upon there, which has now been like 2, 3 times this season. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah,
I think it's mainly about that partnership and, as you said, the experience in the back line, where I think Whitecaps can be vulnerable in that first game for sure. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see this Dallas team who are in really good form. Battle out against this Whitecaps side with now Musa and Farrington back. Um, but yeah, I wouldn't count out the FC Dallas at all here. Could even go to 3 games. I wouldn't
yeah,
be surprised. But I feel like Vancouver Whitecaps will probably be able to get through this one. And as you said, it's just gonna be the center back situation or the back line situation to see whether or not Whitecaps are able to get through here.
yeah, absolutely. It's one that I think the Whitecaps should and will win, but I um I honestly think if there's a game between games one and two, if there's a game that the Whitecaps lose, it's more likely to be game one, even though it's at home, even though you're in front of your home fans, probably in open upper bowl, because I think pretty much the entire lower bowl is now sold out. Um, and then also because going away to Dallas, obviously it's tough to play in terms of like the atmosphere, and by atmosphere I mean like weather-wise, not the fans, because half their stadium is closed off. Like, you watch the game, and because that stand that's closed off is facing the camera, it looks like we're back in COVID again. Like,
Yeah,
there's no one in those stands, they're just covered. It's like when they used to cover the stands and put like a bunch of the advertisers' logos just on there during COVID. Um, so Dallas isn't like the most intimidating place to play in. The Whitecaps already went down there. I know it was in March, but still went down there and won this season. I think the Whitecaps do probably get this in 2 games, but anything can happen. And the last game on Sunday is going to be San Diego against the wildcard winner, which we're both saying is Real Salt Lake. And I think it's gonna be like surprisingly difficult for San Diego, mostly for the reason that they've struggled at home this season, like a lot more than you'd expect. They obviously broke the record for amount of road wins in MLS this season, but at home, I think their record puts them like ninth in the West, which is crazy. Um, I don't know what it is, why they struggle at home so much. Maybe they like playing, they like facing adversity and hitting teams on the counter, which is most of what like you can do that a lot more when you're playing away from home. But they're also a team that likes to keep the ball, so I don't really know what it is. Um, I do think obviously San Diego are the favorites in the series. I think they realistically get it done because I just don't think I said obviously that RSL have a decent amount of quality in their attack, but that's against the Portland Timbers, not against San Diego, who statistically, points wise are the best teams. Not even points wise, technically the best team in the West, but have the most wins in the Western Conference. I'll give them that, which is a
Not
weird tiebreaker to go off of. Like, but it is what it is. Whitecaps didn't get the result they needed on decision day, and because of that, they're not the first place in the West. Whatever. What do you think of this series?
yeah, it'll be definitely an interesting one. I feel like if even if Portland goes through against RSL, I feel like Portland just is able to grasp so much momentum. We've seen it in history in these playoff games. So
Hmm.
if they're able to win one, they'll just be flying back in form again. But yeah, it'll be really interesting to see San Diego. Obviously, they struggle at home. RSL actually beat San Diego this season away from
There you
home.
go.
Yeah, they beat them 3-1. And then San Diego beat RSL away from home 3-1 as well. So wouldn't be surprised if this goes to 3 games, but I
So what you're
feel like
saying is it's going to be a 9-7 aggregate score with 3-1 in each game.
pretty much.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, pretty much. Um, but yeah, I think it's if RSL do get through, I think it's very dependent on their attack. But even then, I feel like San Diego have so much talent up front. I mean, Andrew Stryer has been incredible. Amal Pellegrino has been really good
Hmm.
recently. It feels like, when we were talking about him coming to San Jose, um, I feel like everyone expected a lot out of him just because of his numbers were crazy back in, what was it, Norway?
Either
Or,
Norway or Denmark. I think one of those two. I'm not sure which one
yeah,
it is, but yeah.
yeah. So his numbers were really good back then, and just didn't really find his feet at San Jose. But he's finally looking like the player that San Jose wanted to sign at
Yeah.
San Diego. And if he can continue this form, I mean, it'll be pretty good and become a reliant source for San Diego moving forward in terms of scoring goals. And obviously,
Yeah.
one more thing is Chucky Lozano is out, so it's definitely something to keep in mind as well.
I think it's the biggest thing with Pellegrino coming into form is that, obviously with San Diego not keeping Milanovsky, which is if they go out in an early round in the playoffs, might go down as one of the worst um, decisions in terms of front office in MLS history, genuinely, because he provided a lot for them that they just didn't have. But Pellegrino does kind of look like he's filling that hole of at least having a capable striker there, someone you can play through, someone who can score goals, and he's grown into that in these last two games, I guess, the Houston game and then on decision day here. And yeah, I think with having Dreyer, having Pellegrino, having such a good midfield, pretty solid backline and goalkeeper, it's San Diego are obviously going to be the favorites here, and in most games they play, they're going to be the favorites. And then moving on from that, if we don't have anything else to say, we move on to, I think, my favorite matchup, which is happening on Monday, and that's going to be FC Cincinnati against Columbus Crew. Hell is real derby. First round, it was just, you couldn't have written it any better. You know, Columbus struggling for the last few months, dropping into the wildcard game, almost looked like they were guaranteed to play in it. And then on decision day, Chicago drop points, Orlando lose, Columbus beat a struggling New York Red Bulls team, and they move up to 7th somehow. Um, and I think I think Cincinnati, obviously because it's a derby, like it's gonna be a great environment, great atmosphere in all games here. And I think Cincinnati really struggle. Like I'm not sure they make it out of this series because of the way they play, how they kind of just rely on their moments from Evander, Denke, and now Brenner as well. Um, I don't I don't know if they have what it takes when they're up against a style like Columbus, like the pressure that they're gonna put on them, the way they're gonna play, keep the ball, even though they're missing a lot of guys in the back line. You don't know if Rossi or Abueli are gonna play, but either way, I wouldn't say favor Columbus here. I think this is a very, very even matchup, a lot more so than people would think with a 2v7 matchup.
Yeah, I agree. Uh, yeah, it was crazy how Columbus were able to get out of a wild card spot. I mean, it's the last thing I expected. I didn't even realize Hell's Real could be a matchup in the playoffs first round. But yeah, it's going to be such an interesting series. I think Columbus should really be looking at as like an advantage to them. As you said, I mean, I feel like they're just better under pressure, and sort of better in these atmospheres. I feel like they tend to play better when there's a better atmosphere. But yeah, it's gonna be super reliant on if Rossi will be back or Abu Ali will be back. And yeah, just Cincinnati. Obviously, they look great with Evander and Denke, but they just sometimes look a little flat, even in attack. Sometimes, and it'd be interesting to see. Obviously, they have no Matt Miazga, but Nick Haglund has stepped up recently. So yeah, it's gonna be a great matchup and definitely one that's gonna go to um, 3 games, like for sure.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, and I think I'll go with you. I probably favor Columbus here, but it's kind of crazy that a second seed and a seventh seed is probably the most even matchup across the
Hmm.
board. Maybe with
Yeah.
Miami, Nashville.
And I think the biggest thing, well, for Cincinnati, the biggest thing is that Obina Nwobodo finally came back on decision day. Like they've been missing him for quite a while now, and it's huge that he's back for this playoff stretch. And for Columbus, it's the fact that Daniel Gazdak finally scored again. Uh, I think for them to succeed at all in the playoffs, they need him to be the guy, be because especially if Rossi or Aboli are out for this first round, because I thought Rossi was healthy, and then he just didn't play on decision day, and he was out. I think he was just listed as doubtful or something. So there's a decent chance that he comes back for the first round. I'm not too sure, but yeah, I mean, this is a great matchup. I think it's gonna be fun no matter what, no matter who wins and how many games. Great atmosphere in Cincinnati, in Columbus. It's gonna be a really interesting one. And let's just move swiftly on and get into one of, I think, maybe the most competitive series now that I think of it. I know we said it might be Cincinnati Columbus, it might be Miami Nashville, but to me, this is the second game on Monday, and it's Minnesota against Seattle, and it just immediately has such a playoff feel to it. These two teams always kind of play like they're already in the playoffs with how compact they are and the way they take their chances. Minnesota being like a pretty much a fully set piece team, whether it be free kicks, corners, or Michael Box's long throws. Um, and this is one that I can't call. I don't know who would take this. I think Minnesota's biggest weakness is that they don't really have a striker. Like Yeboah's still out. Obviously, they sold Tani to Villarreal. And Seattle, they just lost Pedro de la Vega on decision day. Looked like a pretty bad injury, so I doubt he's going to be back
So
during the
rough.
playoffs. Yeah, it was tough to see. Like his knee was kind of like out of place. Um,
Yeah, it looked a
but yeah, I
little a
think
little weird.
yeah,
Okay.
this is Fun series, fun for different reasons, not because of the style of play we're going to see where it's like end-to-end attacking football, but rather the opposite. I think it's two teams that know how they want to play. They're very compact, like I said, very organized, and it's about the tactical battle of who's going to budge first and how good are you going to be defensively. Like, what do you think? I think, I mean, this is maybe the most intense series we have here.
Yeah, definitely most intense and competitive. Probably this one will have maybe the least amount of goals, but maybe also the most amount of goals. Um, but yeah, it's going to be really tough to call because, obviously Minnesota are just a really, really good team away from home, but also at home, they can kind of make it their own fortress and kind of, be able to, play their style, even though it's not accustomed to be playing at home like that. And then obviously Seattle is like probably the most experienced team when it comes to these knockout games. And yeah, it's going to be a really interesting matchup here. And I think it comes down to probably difference makers, if I had to guess. And obviously, the tactical battle between Brian Spencer and Eric Ramsey. But obviously, Pedro Del Vega is a huge loss. I feel like he was finally finding his feet at Seattle, and he was putting in really good performances. Um, so not having him is definitely going to be a loss to Seattle. But obviously, they have a lot of options at winger, so I wouldn't be too worried about them. But yeah, it's going to be really about, if the Jordan Morrises and Albert Rusnaks of the world are going to be able to step up and be impactful. And for Minnesota, can Joaquin Pereira kind of just take this game on his own and try to obviously find those set piece goals or see if maybe possibly Calvin Yobel will be back at some point. Pretty sure he was on the bench against the
Okay.
Galaxy.
Okay.
So hopefully he'll be back soon for them. Um, but yeah, I feel like everyone expected Kelly Yabo to have a crazy season, obviously with setbacks and injuries, and Tanny stepping up and being sold in the summer. I mean, it's going to be difficult for him to come into this team and really provide an impact right away. So
Hmm.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think Minnesota have been playing with like Robin Lott up top or something, or
Yeah, basically just as a false
yeah,
nine, like,
yeah,
and it works to an extent, but
yeah.
yeah.
They've looked pretty decent. Uh, Probably not last week against Galaxy. Um, but yeah, it's going to be interesting for both teams because I feel like even if they're not in form or if they're in a little bit of form, I feel like it doesn't really affect them just because of the way they play and how compact they are. So yeah, it's gonna be tough to call. I will say I want to give if Minnesota is able to get that first game down, I'll probably give the edge to them just because then they'll be able to control their destiny sort of away from home and kind of just play the way they want. But you know how Seattle is in the playoffs. They'll just become, you know, kind of like Portland. They'll just like activate their form right away and just kind of power through teams. So yeah, I don't know if I can definitively say a favorite here. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I think Minnesota, with the way they play and the fact that they have such a solid back line and great keeper, um, they probably will be, I wouldn't say the favorites, but more likely to win, especially if they play the game the way they want to. If they're able to control the game and kind of let Seattle have the ball and hit them either on the counter with, like Bongi running down the wing, guys like that, like I think it's they're gonna dictate it and they're gonna do what they want to do. And if they take that first game, they might even go down to Seattle and win that. I mean, we saw last week Seattle when they played against RSL at home, they struggled a little bit. They won 1-0 in that game, but RSL had chances and Seattle should have put more away and they didn't. And I think that's been their big issue. And it's what you touched on with their difference makers stepping up, like Rusnak or Morris. Morris scored on decision day, but for the most part, since coming back from injury, he just hasn't produced enough. And I wonder if maybe Musovski starts over him or anything like that. But I think I'd probably give the edge to Minnesota just because I know they can control how this series goes. And I think either way, it's going to be extremely rough. And I think whoever comes out of this series, uh, I think they probably have a they probably they're probably favored against San Diego if they make it out of that first round. I would say.
I agree. Yeah, I was about to just say that. Like, I feel like whoever San Diego faces here, if they go through to the next round, the Western Conference semifinals, do feel that they have a really hard job to get through, even if they are at home. Obviously, they've struggled at home all season, and these two teams are literally the two teams you don't want to face when you're at home. I feel because they
Yeah.
can just conjure up any type of result, especially Minnesota United. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup, and I think these two teams, whoever makes it out, are just going to probably be competing for that conference final spot. Um, and yeah, they're just going to be really annoying to play against in the playoffs.
hmm And then next up on Tuesday, the Lone Tuesday game, we've got one that I think has essentially not been decided because obviously either team can win this and it's an extremely tight game. But the fact that Charlotte got home field advantage for this game against NYCFC might be just what gives them the win because they've been so good at home this season, and you don't want to play more than one game at a Yankee Stadium or Citi Field, whichever one it is, just in that
It's Yankee Stadium now
baseball stadium.
because the
Yeah,
Yankees lose.
very well said. Um, yeah, I think Charlotte, I would favor them in this. Maybe only thing I'd say is because of Wilfried Zaha's stupid red card on decision day. I don't know. I think that's the only reason I would maybe push back on saying they're the favorites in this, just because NYCFC can certainly take game one, especially with Charlotte losing that attacking firepower. I'm not sure who they'd play on the wing. Otherwise, I guess probably Leo Abada finally gets into the starting lineup. Um, and I mean, Vargas has been pretty good. Tocomati has been great. I think they're still going to be missing Pep Biel, which is a huge blow. But they've got Brant Bronico, who's been very good. Just all around, I think they're like one of the best teams in MLS in terms of having a really good goalkeeper, good backline, midfield and attack. Just everything is fairly good, way above average, I'd say, for the Charlotte team. And then for NYCFC, kind of similar to what we said about Minnesota and Seattle. It's about the difference makers stepping up, like Alonso Martinez, Nico Fernandez Marcao. Ever since he came in, he's been pretty good. Like, I like a lot of what I've seen from him. And I think he could end up being the reason that they advance or don't advance from this series. I think, once again, they also have a really good goalkeeper, really good back line. I think Justin Hack is one of the most underrated players in MLS, and he could be an incredible difference maker in this series. But yeah, I think I'd probably favor Charlotte purely because of how good they are at home, even without Wilfried Zaha for that first game.
Yeah. Also, Justin Hack is a free agent
Yeah, I
at
know.
the end of the year, which is crazy. So he's definitely going to be chased by a lot of clubs because I feel like just his ability to play center back and as well as DM and kind of just I don't know, the ability to just play in a baseball field and still look competent on the ball and
hmm
calm on the ball and be able to, be able to just ping passes. Justin Hack, literally every time I've watched him play, he's been really good. So yeah, definitely agree on that. NYCFC just needs those different makers to step up. They want a chance here. Just gotta say though, Wilfred Zaha, I mean, that was just really dumb, and he doesn't even land the punch. Like it's just It's a bit silly, and even it's a bit silly from Dean Smith after the game, like just saying like, "Oh, he's the most fouled player in the MLS" or
Yeah.
something like that. But
hmm
come on, like you gotta. I feel like you gotta get mad at your player a little
Like
bit
this
because
is what Zaha's done for a lot of his career. Like in the Prem too at Palace, it's just the kind of guy he's always been. It's not really. I don't think it has to do with. And I mean, one of the reasons why he's the most fouled guy in MLS is because of how he plays and like because he's just an angry guy.
yeah, yeah, totally. But yeah, I do favor Charlotte here. And Charlotte have just looked great all season, and they've been riding on a lot of good form. And Kalina, he was benched earlier this season, but then brought back into the team and has looked fantastic. And it's probably the main reason why they were
Yeah.
able to get home field advantage for the first round of the playoffs. And I generally do feel that if they're able to get over this NYCFC team, without Wilfred Zaha in that first game, that they're definitely in contention for that MLS Cup final spot for the East. I mean, they just look almost unstoppable, and I guess they would face Philadelphia.
Yeah, probably Philly. Assuming they beat
I
either
mean,
Chicago
assuming
or
if
Philly.
Philadelphia makes it through, they would face
hmm
Philadelphia in the bracket, right?
And then yeah, a decision day rematch potentially, which is
Yeah.
gonna be very
So
fun.
yeah, so I think I would definitely favor them there, even if they are away from home.
hmm
And their fans, I think, seem passionate enough to make the trip up to
Yeah,
Philadelphia. So yeah, no, pretty excited about this Charlotte team, and I think they're going to make a lot of noise in the playoffs.
completely agree with you there. I think yeah, like I said, Charlotte should have the upper hand here, even with Zaha out for that first game. Even if they lose that first game, mm, then I'm not as confident, but you never know. It's the MLS playoffs, anything could happen. And then on to our last game of round one on Wednesday next week, so in like a week and a half, which, like I said, is crazy that these two teams get that much rest when the wildcard teams played twice before then. Um, LAFC against Austin. Obviously, we saw that matchup a week ago during the international break. Austin won 1-0. LAFC didn't have Danny Wanga and Heung-min Son, so they had to play a different style. But obviously had a big chance he missed, probably should have scored it. I think this is going to be another very interesting game, very intense game, because of how Austin are set up kind of in a similar way to how Minnesota play. And we saw Austin beat Minnesota in that Open Cup semifinal, albeit, in extra time, like last minute of extra time, but still, regardless. Um, I think Austin are almost kind of also built for knockout football, like the way they set up, they rely heavily on Brad Stuver, but for good reason. He's one of the best goalkeepers in MLS. And I don't know, I think the main um, issue for them is going to be the goal scoring. Like, Osman Bukhari is playing as a wing back now, and as a guy like, I think you bought him for like $7 million. You can't be doing that. Like, he doesn't impact the game at all. Um, Usuni has kind of stepped up a little bit. I think he's still way below the level that he should be at. And the brightest spot in this team is Owen Wolf. And I think if he steps up, if he does what he has been doing in recent weeks, this could be an extremely tight series. But um, LAFC have like two of the best players in MLS. Once again, kind of like they I think are the only duo that really rivals Mokhtar and Saric for being the best duo in MLS.
Oh, Brian
And
White and Ryan Gaul.
okay, I'm talking about healthy duos, duos that actually played together this season.
Or Halter and Muller.
Do you know what? Yeah, no, but um, maybe next year. Um, I think Denny and Bouanga and Heung-min Son alone can genuinely win you MLS Cup. Like, LAFC obviously have a very good team regardless. I think one of the biggest difference makers that has like not been spoken about at all is the fact that they signed Ryan Porteous. He's been really, really helpful for their back line. He's played pretty much every game since he joined, and he's looked great. for this back line. Maurice is obviously still very good, even if he tends to have an error here and there, and
Horrible
he had
mistake against Auckland. It was
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. Um, but yeah, he's still pretty
Hmm.
good, and you can probably rely on him in big moments. And then I think LAFC probably win this series. I mean, obviously, like I said, Austin can make this extremely difficult for LAFC, but because of how LAFC play, where they also really, really like to go on the counter, it's two teams that are going to sit back really and just let the other team have the ball, and we'll see what either team does with it, right?
Hmm. Yeah. I think two possible things could happen. Is either LAFC just knock Austin out of the park with Sun and Blanca, or Austin, they've actually won both matchups this season against
Hmm.
LAFC. So yeah, they can probably just the other opportunity is just they just play their game and they're able to pull out these like 1-0 results or low scoring results, kind of a Minnesota style way. But yeah, I probably still still favor LAFC here. Um, as you said,
Yeah, I will.
uh, Sergi Palencia has been really good this season. I thought he's been registering a lot of minutes. Uh, and yeah, they just look good. I think they have the ability to just win a MLS Cup final, and doing so with just Sun and Buanga. Even if I don't really rate Jeronimo as a coach,
Hmm.
but if Sun and Buanga are just at the top of their game, uh, they can beat anyone. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's all of our first round previews done. Now, I said we were going to do this earlier. Let's each give a little dark horse, and maybe say why. Do you want to go first?
So I guess we'll start with dark horses, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I guess we'll start with we mentioned earlier Chicago Fire. I mean, I think if they're able to get through against Colorado or not Colorado or Orlando, uh, I think they have a genuine shot of upsetting Philadelphia Union, and from there, I think they can just build off a lot of momentum. Greg Berhalter has been great this season for them. Obviously, Philip Sinkernagel we touched upon, but yeah, I just think their core is really good, and I feel like they'll be good in knockout footy. Even if you didn't rate Chicago, that I mean, Chicago has not been great
Yeah,
as of recent these past few seasons, but I don't know, there's something about them that just makes it feel like if they're able to find some form, find some energy out of nowhere, I feel like they can catch on and just you know push their way through and really just beat anybody. Because I feel like if they're able to play the game they want to play, they'll beat anyone. If it's 5-3, if it's two
yeah.
one, 1-0, if it's Jack Elliott scoring an uncharacteristic hat trick, I mean, they can do it. They can do it in any way, shape, or form. So yeah, that's definitely my one big dark horse. And I guess uh, on the other side, I mean, if Austin are able to get through
Hmm.
LAFC, um, I guess that just makes them a dark horse immediately. But even if they don't get through the next round, but yeah, I think it's hard to call in a dark horse from the West. I think if I had to give it to someone, probably RSL.
Yeah.
Just because maybe if they find their attack flowing, kind of how like if I think a few years ago Cordova was crazy in playoffs or something like that.
Yeah.
So if they're able to find that form with Otunji and Luna, I think they can maybe get past San Diego, but we'll see.
Hmm. Um, yeah, I think from the West, it's really tough to pick one. I think not necessarily because, I mean, partially because teams are just a lot worse. Like, I don't think Dallas beat the Whitecaps. I mean, RSL could beat San Diego. Dallas could beat the Whitecaps as well. You never know, but It's much less likely than in the East. And in terms of, I mean, if you look at seeding, you could technically say Seattle's a dark horse, but like it's the
Yeah.
Seattle Sounders. They're not a dark horse. Everyone knows how good they are. Like they won Leagues Cup. Um, and then in the East, I already mentioned them. I said they're probably like I favor them in their series, and it's Columbus. I think they even with they're missing so many players, they still have so much quality in their team. Wing backs are obviously it's Wilfred Nancy's thing to play through the wing backs. I think Herrera's been in really good form lately. Obviously scored on decision day as well. Their midfield is still very solid. Nagby in his last hurrah still looks great. He still looks like Darlington Nagby. Um, Schulte's prone to mistakes, and I think that could really hurt them. But overall, he's a pretty solid keeper. And like I said earlier, I think I view them as a dark horse if Daniel Gazdag can perform. And that's really the main thing here.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Columbus look good, and I think with that momentum in the derby, they can definitely pounce on that opportunity.
Yeah. Okay, so now last thing we're gonna do here before we get any more technical difficulties or anything, we're just gonna briefly go over our individual awards for MLS this season, going off of technically solely regular season, but like if you want to take Champions Cup into account or whatever, you probably can. I think let's just say the names. If we disagree, we can have a conversation about it. If not, we can kind of just move on, maybe say a thing or two. But let's start off with probably the easiest one here, MVP. Who do you think? Yeah, it's Lionel Messi. Like
way
I
more
think,
this season, way more deserved last season.
yeah. Like last season, he played half the season. I don't think he could have justified. Obviously, he did get it, but I didn't think he should have been given MVP just solely based off of the fact that clearly wasn't Miami's most valuable player because they won games without him. He still set the points record while not having him for a lot of the games. And this season he's been unreal and he's played a lot more. That's the most important thing.
Yeah. Crazy how they get points record this season.
Yeah.
Maybe they're better without him.
Okay. Not this year. That's definitely not.
Definitely not this year, no.
But yeah, okay. Next up, I think we're going to be in agreement here. I mean, because we're Whitecaps fans, but also because I think it is just the right answer given all the adversity team has faced. Coach of the year. I've got it for Jesper Sorensen.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't want to hear any of these Mikey Vargas shouts just because he won the West. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think it's like with the amount of injuries the Caps have had, the fact that he took the Caps even remotely close to this is insane. And in terms of preseason predictions, the highest any MLS analyst had the Whitecaps finishing is I think Bradley Wright Phillips in 8th, which is like, he claims to be the believer in the Whitecaps, but like that's not even that's a wildcard team. The amount of injuries they've had, taking the Caps to CONCACAF Champions Cup final, winning the Canadian Championship again, even though that was like we played CPL teams every step of the way. It's not really, and I think that's more about Toronto and Montreal being bad rather than us being good. That's why it was so easy. But yeah, I don't think there's much more to be said about that. If you want to add anything, you can.
I mean, yeah, just managing minutes and managing games. I mean, the game management is just incredible from Jesper Sorensen. He's able to just like slot in anybody to do the job, and they will do the job 90% of the time. And it's really showed this season that the Whitecaps usually they have pretty much the same roster minus like a few players. Like there wasn't like huge roster changes in the off season. It was mainly just a coaching change, and some of these players who were under Vanni Sortini last year, who are playing really well this year, have just like really stepped up under Jesper Sorensen. I feel like one to note is definitely Sebastian Berhalter, but also Eddie Ocampo has looked really good, and Ralph Priso has looked fantastic. And yeah, no, it's exciting to see how this team has benefited from an overseas coach that you completely did not expect to, pull off what has been a miracle season for Vancouver Whitecaps.
Couldn't agree more. Next up, I don't know if there's going to be debate here. Maybe it's goalkeeper of the year. I would go with Dane St. Clair. I don't know if you would as
Yeah,
well.
I agree. Dane
Okay.
Sinclair. Yeah.
I've seen a lot of shouts, especially from Whitecaps fans, for Yohei Takaoka, giving the reasoning being his clean sheet record, but I think that's a lot more to do with the back line rather than him. And I'm going to touch on that when we get to our next award. But I think Dane Sinclair's has been really, really good. Statistically, he's been one of the best in MLS. I think you could make an argument for Kalina because of how crucial he's been to Charlotte's, like their win streak. But at the same time, he also had a really poor stretch of form for a while, making errors pretty early in the season, which is why I wouldn't give it to him. But I wouldn't be mad at someone saying Christian Kalina is their goalkeeper of the year.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. And yeah, Takaoka, I mean, he's been really good at his feet
Hmm.
for sure.
That's
But
the main thing, yeah.
that is definitely the main thing, and he's probably the best goalkeeper. I mean, I want to say in the world, but definitely one of the best goalkeepers I've seen at their feet.
Hmm.
Um, from what I've seen, in the footy world. I mean, the way he's just able to control the ball is
Hmm.
really impressive
It's like
for a
60-yard
goalkeeper.
passes with ease. It's like he's
Yeah,
their ball playing center back, like genuinely.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But yeah, Dane Sinclair has been the best shot stopper in the league, in my
Yeah.
opinion, and has really carried his team forward.
Hmm. Okay, and then next up, I also don't think there's going to be a lot of disagreement here. It's Defender of the Year, and I'm going with Tristan Blackman.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, the injury might set him back a little bit in the
Hmm.
votes, but I think Tristan Blackman is the guy who should win it. I mean, obviously, we're clean sheet leaders in the league, and I think that just shows how well Blackman has been. I feel like Ranko would have been in the mix if he hadn't been injured a little earlier. Um, I could understand if someone wants to go for Makanya or
Hmm.
Glesnes.
Hmm.
Obviously, Philly do deserve the recognition, but I feel like in terms of just the player who's been really good defensively and even offensively at times, and even in the build-up, Tristan Blackman has been that guy.
Hmm.
And I mean, I think that's really shown, him being called up to USMNT at some point, and just, I feel like at some point he's going to come back to the playoffs and just really show why he's Defender of the Year.
Yeah, I think the main thing that for me gives this award to him is Ranko's injury. The fact that I think before that I would have preferred Ranko to Tristan Blackman for Defender of the Year, and then from there after that, the Caps' defensive record didn't really go down at all, and that's because of Tristan Blackman. And in the past few weeks with him gone, the Cats have still been relatively good defensively, but there's definitely been a bit of a drop off. And I think, like you said, the way he plays with his feet on the ball, um, and just commanding the back line, he's been, in my opinion, the best center back in MLS. So yeah, like you said, Makanya deserves a shout. Glesnes, Michael Boxall as well. One of Seattle's center backs, probably like a Yamar or Reagan. They're kind of always in the mix. But for me, it's Tristan Blackman. And then next up, we've got Young Player of the Year. And I feel like there's kind of two main candidates. Who's yours? Who's for you?
Um, Part of me wants to say Alex Freeman just
Hmm.
because I feel like his role at his club. I mean, the guy benched Dan Terholson, who's like
Yeah,
a above average right back, and probably someone a lot of clubs are looking at because he's not a first team choice anymore. And the way he's just been able to contribute to goals and really just to dictate Orlando's play style. I feel like earlier in the season and mid season, I mean, he was the center of everything, which is crazy for a right
yeah,
back. Um, I think Obed Vargas definitely has probably more potential as a young player, but I feel like in this MLS season, I want to give it to Alex Freeman just because of the numbers he's put up and how important he is to the team. Not saying Obed Vargas isn't important to the team,
Hmm.
but I feel like if you do factor all competitions, I think maybe Obed Vargas is probably my winner. Um, but yeah, I think Freeman just deserves recognition from my end. What do you
Yeah,
think?
I completely agree. I think, like you said, if you take like a Leagues Cup into account, because of how good Vargas was, especially in that final, but just in that run in general, you could very well give it to him. But Alex Freeman, like you said, as a right back, then this is his first season really playing at all under Pereira. And did you know he's the son of former NFL? I'm uh, not doing all that, but yeah, I think I'd give it to Alex Freeman as well. I just think he's been so influential for Orlando, and without him, I wouldn't say they wouldn't be in the wild card spot just because the Red Bulls are um I think like and ended up like 10 points below the wild card spot or something. Like I
That's
don't think
crazy.
they would have dropped off that much because Orlando is still very good. Yeah, benching Thorhallsson, being so influential in how they play, I think he for me would be the deserved winner, but I wouldn't be mad at anyone if they said they'd rather Obed Vargas win it. And like you said, I think Vargas has more potential, which is why like for 22 under 22, he is the winner. But then young player of the year, I would give it to Alex Freeman.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with that point of view. I mean, if he's got the most potential, he's your 22 under 22 winner. But yeah, just based off this season alone, I feel like Freeman deserves recognition. Definitely a position on the field that doesn't get a lot of recognition as well.
Hmm.
And he's just been incredible.
Okay, and then next up, also kind of feels like one that is pretty easy to predict, although there's also kind of two main players to go with. It's Newcomer of the year, and I think because he doesn't get MVP, it's under Stryer for me.
Yeah, it's got to be under Stryer. I mean, I don't think anyone really expected him to come to this league and put
Yeah,
up those numbers. I
it's
mean,
like
you probably
Lozano
expected
was
that.
supposed to be the star, right?
Yeah, exactly. Lozano was supposed to be the star, but ended up being Dryer. I do want to give my flowers to Philip Zinkernagel
There you
because
go.
I think he's probably one of my favorite non-Whitecaps players in the league.
Hmm.
I just love watching the guy, and the guy just he doesn't look like your typical like I don't know difference maker, number 10 or whatever you want to call him. He just kind of looks like he just sticks his foot in and just is able to, get that goal
Yeah,
or pace that one guy and get the assist. I feel like if I was voting, I think part of me would want to vote Zinkernagel, but I think Anders Dreyer is probably the winner here for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. I think it's tough not to go with Dryer just because of. I think it's also has to do with how good the teams have been in comparison to each other. Like Dryer is the main focal point in a team that won the Western Conference, whereas Zinchenko is the main focal point in a team that is in the wild card game. And then, I'm not saying Zinchenko hasn't been amazing. I think he's been really, really good this season, and I could be persuaded to maybe, probably not. I think Dryer does absolutely deserve it, but Zinchenko, unbelievable player as well. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
and then we've got one more official award, and then one that I think is more important but unofficial. Um, so for the last official award, we've got Comeback Player of the Year, and I think this one's really weird to decide on because I mean I saw we've seen the like list of nominees and the guy I initially said for this is not on there. Like I would have gone with like Danny Musovsky because I know that it's not usually it's something injury related or anything like that, but last season he scored one goal in like 25 games. This season he's been probably Seattle's best striker. Um, Helped them in the Leagues Cup run. He's been pretty good in MLS. But of the nominees out there, I think I'd give it to Lawrence and Nolly. Like the way he bounced back after having a really, really horrific injury, and I think in his first like one of his first games back, maybe first game back, um, he was influential in Houston getting a result at San Diego, having like I think I'm not sure if he scored the goal or just had like he had a really good run that I remember. I think he's the one who also finished it off in what was a result for Houston
I think
at
he
San
scored.
Diego. Yeah. hmm yeah, who would you give it to of the few? I think it was what Larea was on there, Danielle. Yeah, who would you say?
Yeah, I probably would give it to Lawrence Nolly. I mean, this guy, if you watch Houston, I mean, this guy's incredible on the
Mhm.
field. And I think he's definitely a candidate for the next award we're going to talk about
Ooh,
uh, for next year, probably. If you want to characterize him, I guess technically it would be his third season MLS,
yeah.
um, but yeah, I think he's been really good for Houston. Obviously, they weren't able to get into the playoffs. I think probably the only player who comes close is Nick Haglin. I think he's just stepped up recently for Cincinnati, uh, in a position where they've had injuries to deal with. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think those two are probably my favorites.
Yeah, and he
Yeah,
also hmm, he also
it's a
came back from that
list.
like I think in that game against Atlanta a few months ago was when he got that rib injury from Latte Lath, and he came back very recently, scored in that decision day game. I think it's a like I wouldn't be surprised if he wins the award as well, just because of what he's faced and what he's had to go through.
Yeah, and I think is he the only player on that list that made it to the playoffs?
I think
I
so, because it's what Connor Antley, Danielle Larea, and Nali. Was there someone else?
Hagland, and then I think that was everybody.
Yeah.
Probably missing like maybe one or two, but
hmm But yeah, that is quite funny. I guess that's
yeah,
should probably be taken
very
into account
very
as well.
interesting list.
Yeah, this is a much harder award to do than last year, where it was like pretty clearly Lewis Morgan. Um, but yeah, on to our final award. Not an official award, but very, very important regardless. And that's the Goss Theorem Award. Shout out David Goss. For those who
So
don't know what it is, it's essentially an award for a guy that came into MLS, struggled in his first season, and then really just improved a lot in his second season. And I'm gonna let you go first. Who would you give it to?
I think I would probably give it to Pep Biel, just because
Mhm.
I was looking at his numbers last year at the stretch of the season, and he was not really influential for Charlotte. Um, and yeah, I think no one really expected him to be that guy. Obviously, Wilfred Zaha was the key big signing for Charlotte at the beginning of the season, and everyone expected him to be the guy, you know, dictating things for Charlotte and putting up the numbers.
Mhm.
But it ended up being Pep Biel for that beginning part of the season, before he ultimately got injured mid season. Um, but yeah, he's been great. I think he's got like 10 goals and also like 11, 12 assists.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I think he's been great. Probably deserves this award. What do you think, Mine?
Yeah, I think I realistically probably would go with Pep Biel, like especially because last season, I don't know if you remember in the playoffs, but in game one against Orlando, he got a red that I mean they ended up winning game two on pens anyways, but still that was a terrible, terrible moment from him, and he was like early this season, he was maybe leading the MVP race. He was so good for Charlotte, everything was running through him. But yeah, the other guy I'd wanna give a shout out to. We've mentioned him a couple times already today. He's your Colombian boy, Eddie Ocampo. I think just I'm sure many people outside of the like that don't watch every Whitecaps game religiously wouldn't understand why we'd give this to him, but it's just the fact that he has improved so much. Like last season, I was a hater, quite frankly, and even earlier this season. Like his decision making was awful. He would lunge into challenges that he didn't need to lunge into. Going forward, where he it seemed like he should be a lot better, he just wasn't. And he's really stepped it up, I'd say, since like May this year. I think the last time I remember him making a seriously bad error. I'm not gonna include the San Jose game in August because I think that was ridiculous refereeing that got him that red
All
card.
right,
But
as well. So.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Um, I'd say the LAFC game in May where he like 11 like fairly early into the game lunges into a challenge that he doesn't need to lunge into and gives away a penalty which Boanga then scores, and it's like it's exactly what I'd expected from him early this season and late last season when he came in. He seemed like he'd kind of lose his head a lot, wasn't sure exactly what to do because he's fairly young. He doesn't really understand a lot of what's going on around him, and he kind of just goes with it. And he's like, "Oh, I can slide here," and then he just does it, and usually doesn't win the ball. But his improvement, both offensively and defensively, has been immense this year. And I think, yeah, I'd probably give it to Pep Biel just because of how influential he's been for Charlotte. But if not Pep Biel, for me, it's Ocampo.
Yeah, I agree. Ocampo's been great. Always defended my boy since day one. I knew he would be good for us.
Hmm.
Uh, no, but yeah, what you touched on, I mean, little nerve wracking sometimes on the ball and off the ball, trying to win the ball back. But he's really stepped up this year, and I think it really showed um, that one game we didn't have him where he was suspended. I
Hmm.
guess it was against Portland.
Yeah, when Giuseppe Bovalina played at right back.
Yeah, and I know a lot of Whitecaps fans were frustrated with Bovalina that game. I think that game just really showed that Ocampo's a big part of our attack and moving forward. Um, and it's definitely someone we are going to value in these playoff games where things can get heated. I think one more player I want to give a shout out to is Danley Jean Jacques. Great season for Philadelphia. Really good numbers for a DM. And honestly, like no one really expected him to, step up into this role for Philadelphia. But I think it really shows how well Bradley Carnell did this season and kind of developing these types of players that you wouldn't expect to, play a big role. But yeah, John Jack has been really good, and I'm excited to see more of him. And hopefully, he can help Philadelphia here in the playoffs where things could get
Hmm.
tough.
Yeah, completely agree. I think it's him and Jovan Lucas together. One of them will probably end up on a best 11 ballot, and deservedly so. They've been immense. Obviously, Lukic, I think this is his first season in MLS too, right?
Yeah, his first season.
Like he could be a shout for newcomer of the year too. I know it's not something you do
That's
often with
true. Yeah.
usually it's just the attackers, MVP, newcomer, whatever. If you score goals, you're going to get more attention. But Lukic is a pretty good shout as well for that, I think. And yeah, Danny Jean-Jacques, unbelievable this season. Stepped up in big moments. And yeah, that's really all I have to say about that. Do you have anything else to say before we sign off?
I don't know how it took Atlanta that long to sack Ron.
Yeah.
uh, I was so shocked when they sacked him. But congratulations to DC United for winning the Wooden Spoon. My club.
in 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 great fashion as well on a draw.
In a
That's
draw with a
yeah.
Pirani goal because he obviously just got to score every like 10 games or something. They
Yeah.
gave you
Yeah.
excitement.
I think he's still like on a U22 deal, which is interesting. But
That was the most interesting roster build of all
yeah.
time.
The fact that I still can't believe they had Click on a DP deal while he was playing for Atlanta. Like that's the most insane thing. Obviously he's gone now from MLS, but like that was one of the most insane things I'd ever seen.
I would just love for him to be at that game.
Hmm.
DC United Atlanta. He
Yeah,
should
just
have been.
stands, legend of both clubs.
Yeah, he might have been there. Who knows?
Yeah.
Just laughing at both clubs.
Yeah, and that's it from both of us. Thank you for joining me, Jeronimo.
Thanks for having me. It was awesome. Can't wait
Yeah,
for playoffs.
I know, and yeah, we'll be watching the playoffs. I'll be back to talk about it at some point. I'll probably get you back on at some point as well. And
For sure. For sure.
yeah, that's it. Thank you everyone for watching.